So obviously, I've known you for a couple of years now from getting involved with the Dementia Action, Dementia Change Action Network and the DCAN, and also becoming part of the advisory board at the Coalition for Personalised Care. But because of lockdown, we obviously haven't seen each other for quite some time. So just to start, really, is just how things been. What have you been up to?
Okay, things have been. When people ask me questions, I always say be prepared for the answer, right? But I don't give the complete answer anymore. It's been extremely stressful, extremely extremely educational. I've learnt a lot from the last 14 months. I've had some really sad and, again, stressful experiences. I've also equally had some of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had. And I've met some of the most amazing people over the lockdown. And I've come to appreciate life so much more and appreciate and love people so much more.
Do you feel okay to talk about some of the harder aspects of the last year?
Yeah, I can speak about any subject now because I've got a mechanism which is called inhibition free. And so I switched that mechanism on in my brain, and it's just like I activated it. You just have to make sure that if I talk too much or go overboard, you just put your hands up, stop.
Yeah, I'm just really interested in what you said about how challenging it's been, but also how much you've learned. And I'm just wondering, what have you learned over the last year from the challenge?
Well, one of the first things I've learned is when you've got diagnosis, you need to understand what that means in terms of the way you're perceived and people deal with you. I also have learned that in addition to a health diagnosis, especially a diagnosis that revolves or implies some kind of mental unstableness, as they seem to understand it. And when I talk to people, often they seem to think, well, it's all right, Ronald, he's got a dementia diagnosis. No, not a diagnosis, he's got dementia, or he's got a brain injury, which I've got a very serious brain injury, if one is to take on board what the MRI scans and the doctors have said. But despite the brain injury, which I sustained after stroke, which I'm no longer in denial about, I'm still amazing, in terms of my thinking. If anything, as a result of the brain injury, in addition to the dementia diagnosis, I've become more sharper than ever before, because I'm now more mindful about life. I'm more thoughtful about the future, and I think about life, whereas before I was just going through life and just living life without a care and without a thought. I now think about life very much more so. So what was the question you asked me? Sorry?
Just what you've learned, but from that point you just made.
What I learned. I'm sorry. What I've learned is that life is beautiful, especially when you accept it and you know where your position and your place is in life. I also know that one of the things I have a lot of issues with, yes, not really issues with, but I've become very sensitive to, is a lot of the problems I have, and I'm mainly going to harp on about where I live and everything, and the problems I have are based upon me being culturally not understood. I think culture very much plays into the conversation of inclusion and very much in terms of care. And that's not criticism of anybody or situation, but it is something that often, for all the talk about inclusion and diversity, it seems like that conversation is just a political conversation. In reality, it's not really all that it can be.
Yeah. So you hear about it spoken a lot, and it should be important, but in your personal experience, as you've reached out or spoken to social services or sought support, you don't feel as if that's really, they've really taken that on board?
To be quite honest, I don't want to sound like I'm unreasonable or spoiled, because I do get support. I did have an amazing social worker once who came into my life, a lady called Maria, who changed my life and possibly saved my life. An absolutely amazing lady. I've had 7 subsequent social workers who've literally 100% brought tears to my eyes and made me very, very reluctant to talk or want to talk to most social workers again. Definitely an alternative approach. And she didn't have the approach of the social workers that I've subsequently been involved with, who are suffering from workload, or they're actually doing everything in accordance with the textbook that they've been trained on, and social workers who don't recognize that things can be done differently. If it's not in their manual, then don't give me a social worker. And one of my closest family members is a social worker, my niece. And she said, "Don't say that, Uncle." I said, "No, I'm not criticizing social workers, because, as I said before, social workers or a social worker saved my life. Yeah, but I think they need to be trained, just like they need to learn that things can be done differently, just like I had to learn, and I had to literally retrain myself to accept things that I would previously denounce or reject or I'd have issues with. People need to be open to learning and changing the way they think."
What was it about Maria and the way that she was that was different to everybody else that made that difference for you?
First of all, when she turned up at my house, I thought she was a police officer. I thought, like, because she came to my house and she just kept asking me questions, opening up all my mail, and she just was there all the time. And then another lady called Nadine from Penrose, and she was just on me all the time. And at the time when Maria came into my life, I was in denial about everything I was going through. I wasn't eating well. I had no eating in my house, which I keep talking about. I've got eating now. I had no cooking in my house. I was living really, really terribly. And she persevered with me. She continued to be nice to me. And even when I was being very, very kind of stubbornly uncooperative with her, missing all my appointments and all the things she tried to set up for me, she persevered with me. And she always did it with a smile. She always did it with gentleness and like a strange kind of understanding that she knew something was wrong with me, and she didn't want to give up on me. And she didn't give up on me. And she took me to a place where I ended up, after 6 or 7 months of not leaving my house, not really washing, not really eating well, falling apart. She got me to a place called Edway. And that was the start of a change in my thinking and the way I lived. So what was different about Maria was she tried with me and she didn't give up on me.
Brilliant. So the potential there, social work, to completely change life and change your outlook and change your experience. Social work has that potential and that power.
They've got the potential and they've got that power, and in me, there's a perfect example of how they did it. She came into my life when I'd given up on life, when I was not eating, when I was falling apart, and she put me back together again as a result of the support she organized for me with the Stroke Association. She brought them on board. She brought on board Penrose. She brought on board all these different services who had previously tried to engage with me. And I said, no, it's okay. I don't need this. And so there's a lot of potential. And there's a lot of beauty in social workers, because even the subsequent social workers that I've had who've made me like, who I've been on the battlefield with, I see in them they actually start talking to me like I'm like I'm their part of their therapy, right? They say, Ronald, you don't know how difficult it is. They start to tell me their life story, and I see the dilemmas and the problems they have, and I'm thinking like, this is so easy to deal with. Why don't they recognize that the manual that you're working from needs to be changed? Yes, you can do things differently. There's a different approach, right? There'll always be gaps and problems, but all you need to do is recognize that there are people like Ronald, and Ronald's not a unique situation. There's lots of people like Ronald who still wants to live life, who can still live life and can still do so much more than be reliant on services. So yeah, social workers, like most social support services, have got beautiful values, and they've been great for me.
Yeah, great. Well, this Dementia Action Week, the message really is that although dementia itself doesn't have a cure, we believe that the care system can be improved, can be cured. And so we're calling on the government to transform and reform social care. From your experience, between the good experiences you've had and the frustration and the frustrating experiences that you've had, what would you say needs to happen? What do you think needs to change?
God, I'm not good. I'm good at rambling on about things, but not actually breaking things down in the way that that question deserves. I think they have to. What needs to be changed is they should recognize that people with dementia diagnosis, especially early onset of dementia, okay, have got so much ability, and as opposed to encouraging them to be reliant on services, they should be encouraged to benefit from services that support that person to continue to live life to the best of their potential and ability. And failure to do that might result in that person not being as well as they can be, deteriorating faster, and impacting more on social services and the cost of looking after them. Encourage people to be more meaningfully active in their lives, give them the support they need to get back into the mix of things, or to change their, like when I got my diagnosis, they gave me medication, and they said, take this, it will slow it down. But what they should have done is said, okay, we know you suffer from stress, Mr. Ferguson. We need to stop that. We know you have got these symptoms based upon the MRI scans and all the checks that we've done with you. But we also know, from if we're listening to you, that you've still got a passion for life. So go live life, Mr. Ferguson. Yeah, but eat well, don't stress yourself out, but go live your life. Still continue to be the best person you can be, or to fulfill your dreams, which I talk about all the time, you know, music, business, and ever. And if they had encouraged me to go and fulfill my dreams and not be reliant on services, I wouldn't have spent so much time being reliant on services, because I did not need the services as much as they were throwing them at me. What I needed was support to continue being active and fulfilling my dream, being enterprising and just living life, independence. I just needed encouragement to be independent, where I would stumble because of the health issues I've got. Just a prop up. I needed a prop up, but because I didn't get that prop up, in some areas of my life, I've deteriorated more, perhaps. Yeah.
Brilliant, you said. That's a great one. You just sum it. You have a knack with your talent for language, just to really capture the really important points. It's really good, really
Okay.
good.
I doesn't feel like that on this side, but if you think, if when you listen back, if you can decipher it and it makes sense, then I say, okay, that's interesting.
You speak a lot of sense. So maybe what we could look at now, really, you're talking about how services shouldn't be there to take over or take control or do things by the book. They should be there to listen and to understand what matters to you and the kind of life that you want to live, and then try and help you, as you, in your words, be a prop to help you go out and achieve the things you want to achieve. Now, I know you from a couple of years now, and I know that what's really your passion and what's really important to you is music. And I'm wondering if you could say a little bit.
It's gone. Something just popped up on my screen. Shut it. Sorry.
Okay. That's all right. I just wonder if you could say a little bit about what music means to you, and all the different projects and things that you've been working for many years to try and get off the ground around making music much more part of your life, but also part of the life of a lot of people with dementia.
I think my conversation also, in the overall scheme of things, isn't about me or the person with the health issues. It's about how the overall situation can be good for everybody. It can be good for the social worker, good for the carer, good for me. It's just like, it's like a no-brainer. It's like everyone can be happy and have fun. Yeah, but literally they can.
They can.
In some instances they can, while caring for each other's needs. Yeah. And that means not sticking to the stubborn status quo of not sticking to the stubborn status quo of outdated policies. Yeah. But thinking like, let's do things a bit differently. Now I'm thinking like, I get taken to the Alzheimer's Cafe in Luton. So I go there. And when I go there, the first thing they say, Ronald, you have to, some of the people are very kind of a bit sensitive. So don't get them too excited or anything. So I think, okay, so I'm going there, and I know that everybody's calm, and everybody's very, very kind of almost programmed. And then I start to talk to a couple of people, and they become animated, and they become excited. And I'm thinking like, but you're not meant to be excited. Everybody is meant to be calm and quiet. And then they start to want to engage with me around doing something that is very different to what they were doing 10 minutes before. They're happy, they're talking, they're vibrant. And I'm thinking like, there we go again. You're telling everybody to be calm and quiet and everything, when everybody wants to sing a song or want to be loud and just to be happy. And I'm thinking like, while we know some people are so far into their diagnosis that you need to actually respect that and deal with it a certain way, when there's some, especially with people who've got early onset of dementia and got life, the energy of life running through their system, let it flow. Yeah, and I'm saying, I go in there and I say, we're going to do, I say, oh, let's do a record. Let's make a record. And they say, Ronald, do you know what it takes to do a record? I said, yeah, I do. I used to be a record producer many years ago, but I used to do a record producer. And then they look at each other like Ronald's a bit too loud, too lally. I still have a valid purpose in life around being a valid purpose in life around fulfilling my aspirations and dreams. And I keep saying to people, music isn't just about reminiscence. because they keep on saying music for dementia is reminiscence. And I'm thinking, yes, very much so. But music for me is also about the moment. And it's also about how can I use that as a tool to open up a new career path for me, right? Whereby I can explore possible income generating situations through a social enterprise, whereby maybe I won't have to be reliant on social care services. Maybe we could do a social creative industries social enterprise music project. I say to them, I know somebody in the music industry, which I say to them, who actually, and I do know this person, he actually called me 3 weeks ago, and these people don't talk to people. They run the music industry in England, literally. And I say, oh, I was a music record producer once, and this person can pick up the phone and call Virgin Records or Polydor and put you in bed with the right people. And I'm thinking, like, why don't we do a creative industries dementia project where those people who talent, can not just do music, but they can exploit their talent for financial gain. And people can't get their heads around that because they say, oh, there's no money in the music industry. But I said, this is not about money. This ain't about selling records, because there are so many other income generating streams that can be capitalized on for financial gain to support a charity situation. Or a charitable endeavor, but because they can't get their head around the conversation that I'm saying, I said, like I said to them, let's do a joint venture with Warner Brothers or EMI, around the creative industries and music. And they think like that's something impossible to achieve. And I'm thinking it's easy to achieve. We just have to have a relationship. And it's like music for me, I'm going all over the place. You've got to be nervous that
sorry.
Music for me is more than just the enjoyment it brings. It's the opportunity it gives me to be meaningfully involved with life from an enterprising point of view. Because I want to do things. I want to set up a dementia group. I want to support other people to do things. I would just want to live life as someone who's never had a dementia diagnosis. I haven't got a brain injury. I just want to do things. I want to act as a business person, and my career is in respect of the creative industries. Some people might want to do sports. Some people might want to do something else. I'm just thinking like the creative industries is such an easy industry for someone like me to navigate because I used to be in it. Support me to do this, and I will be able to be more than just someone who's rambling on. I'll be able to deliver a project which becomes a pilot project that will 100%, because I can use those extremes, 100%. Some people say lightly or more or less. I said 100%. I can do a dementia project which would bring in people from the music industry that most people can't even talk to. Like, there needs to be a social enterprise, music and dementia creative industries project. So that's what I'm going to do. Set up and that for me is the full beauty of music. Music for me is therapy. Music for me is enterprise. Music for me is a great opportunity for me to network with other people. I love engaging with people. I love meeting with people. One of the most beautiful things that has come out of lockdown is the Zoom situation, because I've met so many different people from all over the world through the Zoom situation, and people that I can actually end up liking a lot, and you eventually you start to feel them as a person that you could hug, or you know them, because it's become, the Zoom situation has become so real for me, that I'm thinking like there have been some good outcomes from the panic, from the lockdown, and that's one of the good situations. So sorry I took so long to answer that question, and I still didn't answer it properly, Music for me is everything.
Yeah, but I think what I got from that, obviously music is your passion, and you have this very clear idea of the project that you want to invest your time and energy and get people around to support you to deliver. But what that tells me really is that what social care needs to be about and what the support systems need to be about is less around, as you say, the rule book and doing things that they're comfortable with. It's much more about listening to people, understanding where they're coming from, what gifts and talents and networks and connections they have, and seeing what support you need to do what you want to do. And for other people, that may be sport, it may be poetry, it may be a coffee group, it may be anything. But really what we're talking about is that people with dementia still have a lot to offer, still have a lot to give, and they still want to have active, meaningful lives. And that the diagnosis, for too many people, that stops people seeing that potential.
You just said it perfectly. Great. That's lovely. That's exactly everything I just said, you can delete. Everything I said a minute ago, you can delete it. That was just chaos.
No. That's what I was just putting out what you'd said to me. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And what also is not how they can support people with dementia to do things.
Yeah.
Often is how they can work with people in harmony to do things in the best interest of the agenda that they're all about. Because there's lots of ways we can work together, and the success of the situation and the real need for the situation is to show how services can work together with people in a more meaningful way. It makes better relationships. It makes people feel more valid. It makes people not feel as if they're subservient to services, but they're working with services. Because I do have lots of needs where I need or I rely on services. But I also have lots of me that makes me very much capable of being independent of services and just getting on with it. But I can't get on with it if I don't have the support of the services in certain ways and to keep my balance.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because too much support and care is looking at the problems, or it's transactional, and that we have this offer and this is what we can do for you. Whereas what we really need is to create that spaces where it's more of a partnership and more equal, and it's much more about moving forward together and understanding what is important, what matters, and what needs to happen, and then finding how to work together to bring that about. Whereas too often those conversations aren't even taken to the first step. So I can well imagine that for you, talking about the music industry, that's you, that's your life, that's where you're comfortable, that's who you know and who you are, and you have those connections and networks. And for you, that seems as if it's something that's really simple and familiar. Whereas you're talking to people in the care and support system who haven't got that background and experience, but rather than them valuing and drawing on your connections and talents, they're kind of thinking, well, that's not my world, I'm a bit uncomfortable, I don't know, I don't understand that, therefore I can't help you. But what you're saying is they can help you in some ways, but really it's to help you make the most of your own talents.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what it is, sometimes you don't need help. No, in a way, I feel, and I got to be careful of the words, what I say, but in a way, I feel I was almost duped into believing that I needed support and help where I didn't need support and help. What I needed was, or if I did need support and help, I needed it in terms of encouragement to get myself together and get out there and continue to try to do things. But I was encouraged to be reliant. And I became reliant. And it's only through almost desperation or through spending a lot of time through the lockdown and doing a lot of talking with myself, that I woke up to the fact that you can't be reliant on situations, because the world will just change unexplainedly. Things will just change, and there's so much need, and everyone's got their colossal problems anyhow. You just have to get on with it, Ronald. And I've just now just give myself a kick up the arse, so to speak, and I'm going for it. I'm getting back. I'm conscious that things are changing all the time, and because of my diagnosis, like climate change, suddenly I can be something else that is just out of control. So I need to, while the weather is good, so to speak, I need to just, come on, Ronald, stop wasting time on your Facebook or Twitter, yeah? Put together your business plan, set up your little enterprise, register it as a CIC, get out there and do what you have to do, and stop being reliant on services and support, because that you've become lazy. I've become lazy. Yeah. So and that is like almost like an illness. That is an illness. Yeah. I've become very lazy and reliant. And the lockdown has woken me up to a new reality, and it's galvanized me back into gear. So now the world's in trouble. The world's in trouble because I'm like a train. I'm like an uncontrollable train. The chief executive guy, I'm always talking to chief executives, right? I don't know why, because when I go to places, I'm talking to someone, and I had a conversation with someone, and I said, excuse me, who's the chief executive of this organization? And they say, oh, you won't have to talk to that. I said, no, I need to talk to the chief executive. That's the kind of conversation I need. Now I'm uncontrollable. I'm going all out to set up a social enterprise project. I need to do it. Because it brings happiness. When you're doing things that are meaningful, it actually is the best therapy for you often. And I need that. They've given me, they put me on antidepressants. And I told them I don't take antidepressants. I took it for about a few weeks. And I said, I don't take it because it's making me sick. And they still give them to me. I said, but I don't take them. I haven't taken them for 9 months. I'm thinking, why are you still giving me antidepressants? And I'm thinking, like, this is just crazy. Because my joy and happiness comes from me doing things that are meaningful and enjoyable. That is my antidepressant.
Yeah.
So I'm taking it now. Watch out, the world, watch out. I need to be happy. We all need to be happy. That is our therapy. One of the best forms of therapy is to encourage people to be happy in things that make them happy. Yeah.
Well said.
That video is a song. I wrote a song called "The Mountains I Still Climb," which was a poem that I wrote. And I wrote the poem, which is because I kept having conversations with people, and the conversations would exhaust me and make me sad. And I just felt I couldn't share a conversation with anybody. So the only way I can actually get things off my chest is to put it in words on pieces of paper. And I wrote, "The Mountain I Still Climb" was really me. I wrote it at a time when I was just exhausted, and I just needed to communicate what I felt. And I knew that I didn't have the verbal conversation to communicate with anybody what I was feeling without us falling apart, falling into some kind of unpleasant conversation, them trying to pacify me trying to explain why I felt like this. So I put it in words, and then people started to, then I eventually did it as a dementia diaries for some people, some dementia diaries. Then they got all excited about it, and I still started to think, wow, this is interesting here, right? So I said, okay, I'm going to make this into a record. But I didn't make it into a record. But I went at a Dementia Diaries event in Birmingham. And while I was around the campfire with all these different people, guy called Steve Militant, Philly, Tommy Dunn, Dorsia, Chris Maddox. All of us were around the campfire. Another guy, lots of people, amazing people, right? Some of them are doing a documentary with the BBC, and I was sitting there by myself to go. They wanted me to go to Birmingham to Dementia Diaries, yeah. And when I got there, I met all these people who I didn't want to meet because I had already preconceived ideas in my head about these people, not being able to understand me, whatever. Preconceived ideas, terrible thing, making assumptions. They were just amazing. They were the most beautiful people I've ever met before. I'm not saying this lightly. As soon as I got there, I saw Steve treated was phenomenal. Yeah, he knew more about reggae than I knew. Yeah, unbelievable. This guy, Steve Militant, the deepness guy. Then I saw Chris Maddox, amazingly beautiful lady. We're mates. Then I went into meetings with all these people, and they were just phenomenal. What a beautiful experience it was. The Dementia Diaries. Then I saw that lady Wendy Mitchell. She was talking to somebody who I wanted to talk to. No, I was talking to somebody, and then she came up and stood up, and then I said to her, sorry, I'm just talking to the man. I'll be finishing in a minute. And she said, it's all right. I don't want to talk to the man. I want to talk to you. I thought, wow, because I admire this lady. I admire Wendy Mitchell. I brought her a book, right? I'm saying, you want to talk to me? And she said, I just want to say we're all very happy that you're here with us. I saw what beautiful people, and it was just amazing. And then we went around the campfire. I did the poem. Everybody was singing, and I was just sitting there watching all of these people. I was thinking, wow, this is really interesting stuff, right? And then they said, come on, Ronald, do something. I said, no, I can't sing or anything. They said, come on, do something. So I said, I got a poem, and I read my poem. And then they, two of them had guitars, and they started to play along. And then from there, they said, oh, we're going to record that poem. And then a few months later, they recorded they wrote, they said, send him the lyrics, and he wrote a song. And he evolved the song around the poem. And then the song in its right became a song. And then they kept on saying, we've done the song now, Ronald, but we got to get you on it because it was yours. It came from your poem. And they brought me down to Liverpool. They treated just a beautiful experience. And I'm thinking, this is how it can be. Yeah? You can work together, you can build things up, and you can make it therapy, you can make it recreation, you can make it enterprise. And I'm thinking, like, so much more of this should be done and taken further down the line. So that's how the song came about. And those guys are really wonderful people, really wonderful, amazing. And I think there's so many people who are just like them up and down the country that could have that type of situation, and it could be nurtured. And that speaks for itself, I think.
Such a waste, isn't it, if it's not
nurtured? But then again, it's for people who know, for them to be more like, I know, so I should be more self-motivated to do it, as opposed to, and there's no reason for me to be always going to people and asking them to support something when I've got the credentials and ability to take it to another level where they may be able to look at it and think, oh, now we get it, because people still don't really get it. They can only appreciate it. And I said, perhaps nobody's ever going to get what I'm saying until I nurture it a bit more. And then someone will suddenly say, oh, I get it. And then they'll do what I'm doing, but do it better than me, because I know that most of the things I talk about and I say, I do it and say in an haphazard way. And that's where the problem might be.
I don't think the problem is how you articulate it and speak about it, because every time I've had a conversation with you, it's been a pleasure, and it's been really clear and really profound in many ways, but also very moving and very real. And so I don't think it's how you communicate. I think it's just, are you having the conversations in the right spaces with the right people, and people who will pick that up and know how to actually make these things happen. And that may not be the fault of social workers or the system or the services, because that's not what they're used to. But you go somewhere else, talk to different people like you did with the deep crowd, and suddenly your ideas and your passions and your talents sparked off other ideas and brought in other people's talents and passions, and then suddenly you have an opportunity that wasn't there before. And that's really hard to put in a book. It's really hard to put in a manual. It's about listening and responding and connecting and waiting for opportunities to arise. And that's not easy, but that's where the magic happens, and that's where real support happens.
Yeah, and I spent a lot of time, or I spend a lot of time talking about social workers, but I don't really have I don't have a problem with social workers at all.
No.
Yeah. And they're just part of many pieces of issues that have come together to be what it is. But I don't have a problem with social workers at all. In fact, I want to do a training program for them. And when they say, "Who's the trainer?" they say, "Oh, it's going to be Ronald." I said, "What, Ronald?" Yeah. I don't have a problem with any situation in the world, to be quite honest. I don't have a problem with life or people. And one of the things that I really, really gained from the lockdown is to just appreciate life and people, and how fortunate I am in contrast to what so many other people are going through. When you look at what other people are going through and what's going on in the world, you sit down, I sit down and think, wow, wow. You know, so I don't have a problem, even though I might make the sounds of a problem. I don't have a problem.
Okay, thanks, Ronald. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you very much.